Okay.
7, going to be 7.
I'm ready. We will call the Government Oversight Committee meeting of January 12th, 2022 to order. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda.
Romano adopts the agenda.
Support Van Sickle.
I have a motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle to adopt the agenda. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please vote. Next item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes.
Motion to approve. Van Sickle.
Support Zinner.
I have a motion by Commissioner Van Sickle, supported by Commissioner Zinner. Any discussion on the approval of the meeting minutes dated December 1st, 2021? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 10-0.
Thank you. Next item is our first of two public participation. This is the first opportunity for those who wish to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes on an agenda items which are on today's agenda. Second opportunity for public participation is for those who wish to speak on any issue. Anyone from the public that wishes to be heard, other than Jamie. Going once, twice, closed. Next item on the agenda is appointments. Friend of the Court Advisory Board, executive appointment with board concurrence, 3 vacancies, 1 partial term, 2 3-year terms. Candidates are Amee St. Terrance Brailsford, and Suzan Fischer. Tom, I think it's all yours, and Happy New Year to you.
Well, thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you. Am I on?
You're on.
Okay, good. Just to remind you, the Citizens Advisory Committee of the Friend of the Court was established under statute in 2015. We don't have to do it, but we wanted to do it. And the purpose of this advisory committee is to advise the court and the Board of Commissioners on the operation of the Friend of the Court in the exercise of its duties and responsibilities under the law. They review and investigate some chosen grievances concerning the Friend of the Court, limited to office operations and gender bias. And mostly people complain about the way perhaps they were treated, or that they disagree with a recommendation or order of the court, which is not really a grievable answer that we can give them. We can't answer that grievance. They also help us identify the needs of citizens in the community who seek the Friend of the Court services. Again, it's advisory only to the Friend of the Court. It's composed of 9 members, custodial party, non-custodial party, family attorney, a mental health professional, 2 members of the general public, plus designees from the prosecutor's office, the DHHS, Sheriff's Department. These individuals today that you're voting on are representative of the general public, and then Suzan Fischer, who has been part of the committee since its inception in 2015, is part of the mental health committee. I work real well with the committee. They are incredibly helpful to me. They've given me recommendations in terms of how I answer my grievances and doing some things different. They've helped me in terms of recognizing some changes we need to make in personnel in our office, in terms of shifting personnel to other areas. It's a really good relationship I have with them, and I strongly recommend that these individuals, who I've spoken to all of them, even though they're not here today, be confirmed and move forward. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Tom, the board, if I heard you correctly, is an advisory board to your office.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
If citizens have issues, do they contact your office or them or both?
They can contact both. Typically what happens is they file a grievance. I get the grievance, I look at it, determine if it's even a grievable situation. You can't grieve a court order. There's a judicial process for that. And if it is answerable, then I do answer it, and I send a copy to the Citizens Advisory, certain grievances. We can't do them all because we sometimes have too many. Then they go through them with me. But even before they have their official meeting with me, they have an open meeting for anybody from the public can come talk to them.
Sometime in the future, I want to get on your calendar. As you're aware, I've been involved more than I wanted to be with certain individuals, and understand the process from cradle to grave. It was unbeknownst to me how many hands touch in different departments, even in different locations. Anything that's going through your area, from your the judges, your department, to the clerk's office, to the treasurer's office, back to finance, back to the... I just want to get my hands on an understanding, and I've talked to the chairman, and he's agreed to be part of that with me. And then once we get an understanding, I think it would be beneficial for the full board to understand this as well, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets these calls about delinquent payments and things like that. So we're going to do that.
That would be wonderful, and I would look forward to that opportunity. It is a little convoluted, especially when you go from, civil enforcement to criminal enforcement. It's two completely different things and two completely different processes, and it's hard for people to understand that. But I would be more than happy to educate anybody, anytime, anywhere.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'd like to just make a motion to move this to full board.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Support Van Sickle.
I have a motion by Commissioner Song, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle.
And then I do have some questions.
You have the floor.
Thank you so much. So, I take these appointments very seriously because this is one of our, main responsibilities being on the board. I just noticed with one of these applicants, the application wasn't fully filled, specifically, briefly indicating their qualifications for the appointment. So I do appreciate you, Tom, being here to, advocate on their behalf, but I think in the future, it would be really helpful for us to have these applications filled out completely, because it really helps us to, make our decision without, you being here to advocate on their behalf. So I just first want to point that out. And then the second thing was I noticed that on the Macomb Gov website, the friend of the court meetings are listed for 2019, the meeting dates, but there are none in 2020. So what are the meeting dates for this year, and how often do they meet? Because you did mention they do have their open meetings.
They do. They meet 6 times a year, a minimum of 6 times a year, and I will speak to the head of the Citizens Advisory, who I report to, or kind of, sort of, in an advisory perspective, and I'll make sure that those get on the website.
All right, wonderful.
Yeah, and if I may speak to your
Sure.
first comment, those applications are sent to the executive office, and they process them, but I really, really encourage all of our applicants to appear at the board. They have in the past. This is kind of an aberration that they haven't appeared. I talked to them, and their advisory to me, they're to the office, but I really would prefer that I be separated from that process to some extent, because I don't want there to be I don't want to look like I'm stacking the deck, to be honest with you. And it is a really, really good group, and I want constructive criticism, and they've been really good about that in the past. And one last thing, we do need one more person on the board, if I could just do a little advertising, and that is an individual for the non-custodial party, which is a really, really important part of the committee, because that perspective is something that we really need. We have the perspective of a custodial party and then all these other entities, but we really need that perspective. So if any of you know of anybody, it's really important they don't have an agenda, because this is good for the whole and for our office, and is constructive and should be constructive and should move forward as that. And if they have an agenda, sometimes that can throw a monkey wrench in the whole thing, so.
Thank you, Tom.
Yes, thank you.
Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is recommendations on social media policy. And we have numerous ones. So, I need a motion to refer this to full board.
Motion to refer to full board.
Support, Song.
Motion by Romano, supported by Commissioner Song. Okay.
Chair, could we get clarification which one they're referring to?
Well, I was
forward?
going to move to that right now. Which one are we referring to full board? The hybrid, the social update of 1119, or NARD social media draft?
Chair, it
Yes,
would be
ma'am.
the hybrid version.
Thank you. Do you agree with that?
That's fine.
Okay. So we're talking about the hybrid version. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
We have Kyle on the phone who worked on this for us, so he's available via the phone for us if anyone has any questions for him personally.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Kyle, can you hear us?
Say it again. I don't answer.
Try it again.
Just so you know, I have spoken with him.
Kyle, are you available? We can't hear you. Volume's all the way up on the phone.
Try it again.
Kyle?
Hello?
There you go.
Okay, we got him. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, Chair. I like the hybrid. I just have a couple of things, and I'll go over them and just maybe make an amendment with regard to all of them if there isn't any pushback on it. So the first one is under scope, where it says the BOC must be in compliance with this policy. It says any designee authorized, employees or designees that use it must be in compliance. I would change that to must comply, because it's the post itself that has to be in compliance, but the individual doing the post has to comply with the policy. That's probably why it originally said follow as opposed to be in compliance. So that's the first one. The second one is Section 6. If you all remember, I requested an opinion from John Shepka with regard to this policy, specifically with regard to Section 6, because I believe it's unconstitutional. We did not get that from him. I know I did talk to him before that last meeting, and he did agree with me. We cannot ban somebody for doing personal attacks or political views or ideas. First of all, ideas irrelevant to the topic is kind of difficult, because we'll be our representatives will be posting things on all different sorts of topics that relate to us. That has been ruled to be unconstitutional. So I believe we need to delete the entire section, Section 6. And then the last thing that I have, and that's the only one that I think might be of any contention. The last one is Section 7, where, first of all, it should just say compliance, because we shouldn't have a section inside of one policy that speaks to compliance with county policies or ordinances. This should be specific to this policy. So it should just say compliance, and it should say all county policies and ordinance should be adhered to when using social media. And then the last sentence should say Violations, get rid of county policies and ordinances, because it's specific to this. Violations will be addressed by the board chair, as opposed to handled by the board chair as he or she sees fit. That's odd wording. They'll be addressed by the board chair, and then it's up to the board chair to decide how they're going to address them. So those are my suggestions. I would make all of that in the form of an amendment.
Matuzik supports the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Let me, before we vote on the amendment, get the input of the other commissioners. Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Okay, I'll speak louder. In the first paragraph where it says, be in compliance with this policy, social media sites shall include but are not limited to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and on. Now, does that mean personal Facebooks, et cetera? Are we talking personal?
No.
So what does that literally mean? Are they talking about the board
Yes.
here, Hunch Free and whomever here puts things in?
Correct.
Well, that all goes through the assistant and then the chair, correct? That everything that goes in is already seen by, always accepted by the chair at this point, correct?
We're trying to safeguard to make sure that's the case always. It has nothing to do with your personal Facebook.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Commissioner Zong.
Thank you, Chair. Just responding to some of the things that Commissioner Kleinfeld pointed out regarding Section 6. I think it's so important to have a disclaimer, but maybe we remove the, after a disclaimer, the and comment removal, and then removing the third sentence, which says comments that include profanity, personal attacks, etc., would be subject to removal. Because I think it's still important to have the other parts of the sentence there, so I don't think that we should necessarily remove that entire section. But again, if we could just remove the and comment removal, and then the third sentence, that might be more appropriate.
May I, Chair?
Thank you, Chair.
Wait, I wanted to, Commissioner Zong, I didn't catch the last part of your statement. Was that the third sentence?
So Section 6, I don't think that should be removed entirely. I think that we still need to have that part of the disclaimer, but I would suggest removing the third sentence in that quoted statement. So that would involve removing where it says comments that include profanity, personal attacks, political views will be subject to removal.
I would
'Cause I
agree
do-
to make my amendment that way.
Because I do agree that, removing comments is not something that we should do, whether they are not what we want them to say. I think that, everyone has the freedom to say whatever they want to. Those comments shouldn't necessarily be removed. But the overall statement should probably still stay there.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Let me move on to Chairman Brown.
Thank you. I support the amendments as and with the caveat that Commissioner Song had mentioned. All the amendments are perfectly in order, and the last amendment is really consistent with the board policy. I operate here when someone comes up and starts to use profanity, they could be asked to be removed from the chamber if they can persist. So it's consistent with what we do now presently, and I think it's a good move, and I support the amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Matuzak.
I agree with Commissioner Song's idea of just removing that one sentence, because that's the sentence that I find troubling. I do think it's unconstitutional to remove people's comments, and in addition, I think we should welcome people's comments. We may not like them, we may find them offensive, we may disagree with them. We talk about this site being semi-moderated. If we choose to respond to a comment that is outright wrong, that's certainly something staff could do under this policy. But I would agree with Commissioner Kleinfeld's original motion and Commissioner Song's amendment to that motion, if you will. I think this is important that we do have a policy. I'm glad we're finally getting there. It seems like a long time coming. But I do think we can't say we're removing people's comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kleinfeld, second round.
Thank you, and because of her changes, I think the last thing would be the heading should just say disclaimer as opposed to disclaimer and comment removal. And when we can just forward that, and then it'll be cleaned up for full board for final approval. So I agree to incorporate those changes in my amendment if the supporters already agreed to do that. So it can just be one amendment as well as striking the and comment removal. Thank you.
Commissioner Zong, second round.
Thank you, Chair. And just final thoughts too, I also want to thank staff and Commissioner Nard, everyone who helped contribute to the social media policy. It's a new year, and so I think this is a great start to our year in having a social media policy in place. So fully will support it with those amendments during full board. Thank you, Chair.
Well, I want to thank you for making the suggestion that we should do this about 6 months ago. We have a motion and a second for an amendment. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Sabatini jumps in late.
Thank you, Chair. Well, yeah, I wanted to jump in, so figure later is better than earlier here. But a couple of questions. Certainly in agreement with the policy. I know Corp Counsel or our council has not reviewed this at all. Obviously, we're having deliberations and discussing it here today. So, full boards next week. Is this going to be reviewed by an attorney before then?
That would be my intent.
Okay. So my thought is not to slow down the process, but if that doesn't happen, is that just going to be brought back to your committee next month?
Yes.
Okay. Or is it more advantageous to just keep it in this committee, have it reviewed before it's cleaned up, and then send it to full board?
My hope is that we will get legal opinion prior to the full board meeting so we can get this off my agenda. How's that?
That's a good answer. Next question I have is just in regards to other policies that we have here in place. Beyond our board rules, 'cause I know we're talking about having this implemented within our board rules. Is that still the intent? Or is this going to be just a separate policy on its own?
I will defer to you.
It's the intent of rule is part of the board rules. It's a subsection of our boards and procedures. This contains our office. This is guidelines to our office, how we operate our office, not the broader county offices. So I would foresee it being included in our rules.
Okay. So our intent here is just to pass it as a social media policy and then incorporate it at a later date?
Yes.
Yes.
One step at a time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Van Sickle. Oh, my egg.
Chair, could I just respond to Commissioner
Certainly.
Sabatini? And can we get some clarification from Kyle? Because my understanding was that they did review this hybrid version. So are you saying that they didn't? Legal didn't review it?
Kyle, could you hear the question?
Yes, it was sent to legal, and we have not received a response. Crystal did remind them this morning, and no response. But we'll send this edited one again with the intent on getting feedback before full board.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to see the motion changed to forward to full board after legal review.
We can do that.
If the
mover and the second would agree.
This is an amendment. The mover was somebody else made the original motion.
Oh, that was you and Barb.
I support that.
Okay. Would they agree to withdraw the motion?
Agreed.
That's an...
Amend the motion.
We'll amend the motion to forward to full board pending legal review. Hopefully that happens because it is next week.
Chair, I believe Commissioner Romano made the motion. It was supported by Commissioner Song, so Commissioner Romano would have to make that amendment.
If I want to. All right, I'm going to make that amendment.
I support that.
Okay. We still have speakers. Commissioner Song, did you wish?
I withdraw, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. And just to clean this up, we don't need, because the motion maker agreed to that, and that's the original motion, it's just going to be what the original motion is. We discussed it under the amendment, but we don't need a separate motion for it. So there will be a vote on the amendment, and then a vote on the original motion. They've already changed the original motion. So just to clean it up, number one. And number two, I want to make I'm not sure that it belongs in board rules. Perhaps there should be, whatever policies we do for this office should be in a separate binder that is the office policies, because the board rules apply to the board and the board meetings, not to the staff and social media. So it should be somewhere where we can find it easily, and any other policies that we adopt for our office, but I don't necessarily think it's supposed to be in the board rules. So perhaps before doing that, we would look further into that. Thank you.
It can be looked further into, but I have no problem with it being part of the board rules. None. Okay. Do we know what we're voting on now? Which is what we went through last meeting with this social media policy?
We're voting on the amendment.
Everybody agree we're voting on the amendment?
Yes.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. We've also have an agreement that we will not put this back on the full board agenda until we've had the opportunity to have legal counsel review it. I don't think we need to vote on that.
No, but we have to vote on the main motion.
It's a motion to...
Yeah, but that part we don't have to vote on, right?
No.
Okay. So now we need the motion to adopt the hybrid social media policy with the amendments. Did you wish to speak?
Isn't it to send
You're
it to
still
full
on.
board?
Pardon
Not
me?
adopt.
Pardon me?
We're not adopting it, we're sending it to full board.
Yeah, motion is to send it to full board.
The motion was made, and I think it was supported by mine.
Support.
Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody. Next item is Resolution 2022-7588 to create a regional partnership of broadband infrastructure and equity and water infrastructure. I need a motion, please.
Song makes a motion.
Support by Nard.
I have a motion by Commissioner Zong, supported by Commissioner Nard. Chairman, would you like to explain this?
Yes, thank you. As a result of the Tri-County Summit with Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County, there was an interest to continue the collaboration. We shared a lot of ideas and what was happening in the area, but it was interesting from all three counties to continue to work together to try to find areas where we can all partner together to achieve some objectives. And two of the objectives that were selected was water infrastructure and broadband infrastructure, how the counties can collaborate on ways to find maybe some ways we can work together to achieve our objectives in those areas, and put together two representatives from each county on those committees to talk about it and to come up with some recommendations and strategies as to how to go forward. There are good ideas, many good ideas shared at that summit, and this is a way to flush some of those ideas out in these two areas and come back with some recommendations for us to consider at the next Tri-County Summit. So it's to begin, continue the dialogue is basically what this will do, and we'll see where it goes. So,
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you. I have a couple of changes to what's been typed as my amendment, and I want everybody to know that I did this in consultation with Patty Dibb from Oakland County as well as Kyle this afternoon. So the first is, this is two partnerships, and I thought this was going to be corrected by Crystal or Kyle, and I don't see the correction in front of us. So the heading would be a resolution to create regional partnerships. Strike the A and add an S to partnership, because it's two partnerships. That was Kyle's, and that might have been, I think, Phil, you may have noticed that. Phil's the one that brought it up. So under where they've written in my amendments, there's a couple of, we were just talking verbally with each other, so it's not exactly correct. So it would say that two steering committees shall be formed with bipartisan as appropriate voting representatives, comma, in parentheses, two, from each of, as opposed to each from. The each is supposed to refer to the commissions, and both Patty and Kyle agreed with me that they needed to be flipped, because if the each is where it is, then you got to put a number in there. Anyway, so everybody agreed that that's what was supposed to take place. So it's from each of, and Oakland County's she's already incorporating the changes into theirs. And then it says Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties to provide direction. And then if necessary, it's county commissions may send alternates as opposed to county commissioners. It would really be whoever the chair chose as alternates would be the alternate. So that's just allowing any of the three counties, if their individuals can't make it, to send alternates. And we also added the also to clean that up. And then the last thing is, in talking to her, it's Oakland County's understanding that there will be two appointed positions and two alternates, as opposed to one appointed position and one alternate. So there, one appointed D and one appointed R, and then one alternate D and one alternate R. And as appropriate applies because Wayne County really can't do that. They don't have that option. But Oakland County wanted that in there, so that's where that came from. And it was important to clarify the two, because I was concerned that they would send two and Don would send one, and we wouldn't have an equal board of the three counties. There would be one with two and two of us with one. So that's why we worked all that out, and everybody that worked on it was in agreement with those changes. Thank you. So that I'm offering that this as an amendment with those changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kleinfeld, for your help on that. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Commissioner Song.
I support those amendments, Commissioner Kleinfeld, and I think you answered my question. My next question was going to be if this was a collaborative effort among the other counties to also pass a resolution.
It was a consensus of all three of us.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
So we have a motion to approve the regional partnership. Can I have the motion amended to include the revisions made?
Right. Oh.
Motion amended to include the revisions.
Who made the original motion?
I did.
Okay.
Commissioner
I
Zong.
don't know who seconded, though.
Michelle did. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion to refer to full board with the amendments as presented. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please vote.
I think you have one, Chair.
Yeah,
You do have a speaker?
I do. Oh, Don jumped in late. Don?
Thank you, Chair. I'm wondering if the as appropriate should be if possible. Because as appropriate, what does that even mean? Appropriate can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So on the bipartisan, I think it should be if possible, because that specifically says if you can do it, you should.
Do you want to speak to it?
You want to speak to that?
I have no problem with it. That's perfectly fine with me.
Okay. Are you putting that in the form of a motion, Don?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a support?
How about it could be a friendly amendment? How about that?
Okay,
Do we
that's
accept
fine by
it?
me.
Friendly
unless
amendment?
somebody
Commissioner Mai
objects.
agrees.
Yes,
Thank you.
supportive.
Those aren't allowed anymore, Chair. That's what I was
Well,
told
check.
by Commissioner Kleinfeld earlier, or last year.
See what happens? when you-
See what happens, because Maya's like
But
this.
I'll support Commissioner Van Sickle.
All right, very good. We got a motion.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, I'm trying to get my machine back here. Next item on the agenda is a proclamation commending Judge Mark Switalski upon his retirement from Macomb County Circuit Court. Motion to refer to full board, please.
Motion to refer to full board, Romano.
Support Sabatini.
I have a motion by Commissioner Romano, supported by Commissioner Sabatini. Seeing no speak.
I do, I'm sorry.
What?
I do, I was trying to read to see if the new version was in there.
Now I have a speaker.
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Just that it's not in up here yet. Obviously, you know, we're short-staffed. There has been a rewrite to correct some issues with it, but did not change the content at all. Mary and I worked together on some of the wording that was problematic and is being corrected, and the corrected version will be at full board, but it doesn't change the content in any way, shape, or form, but it is significantly rearranged. Thank you.
So the corrected, rearranged version, Commissioner Song.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering if these corrections could be made like prior to it being added to the agenda, because I just think things should be on the agenda a week or two ahead of time without us coming to committee to have to make some of these changes. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
May I?
Commissioner Kleinfeld.
So I wouldn't have had it to change before it was added to the agenda. So when I saw it, because it was added to the agenda, that's why we have committee, so that if there needs to be corrections, it's fixed. The new version should be in front of you, but as you know, we've only got 2 staff members here. And because of the shortage of staff, there's just no way Mary could do all of that. But we worked on it together. We didn't have any disagreement with each other on what the issues were and how to rewrite it. So I agree with you, under normal circumstances, the second version should be in front of you. It's a lot better. It flows a lot better than the first one. But that's why, is the short staffing. But I can't make the corrections before something's on the agenda if I don't know it exists. So thank you.
Commissioner Romano.
You know, I read the proclamation. I don't have a problem with it, just the way it is. And if we can vote on that, and if you don't like it, vote no. You read the proclamation. If you like it, vote yes, without any changes. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Sabatini.
I agree with Commissioner Romano, but I'm open to the changes. If Commissioner Kleinfeld wants to speak about what the specific changes are, maybe that'll clear it up as well, Commissioner. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I would just like to add, this is a proclamation congratulating the judge on his retirement. It had been referred to him. He reviewed it. Vera from his staff reviewed it. I talked to him about it, we laughed about it. He didn't see any need to change anything, so I have no problem with the proclamation, and we do this on every one of these things that comes before this committee. That was posted, and the opportunity was there to make changes, so the mover made a motion to approve it as is. It was seconded that way. I have no problem with it.
May
You're next.
Okay, thank you. So, let me just give you one example, because I don't want to go through the whole thing, and you guys would have the revised version, and just so you know, I went over this with the judge's brother. He agreed with me 100% on the issues, and we talked over the wording of it. I read these things carefully because they're going to be put in frames and they're going to be on people's walls, and it's important. So I'll just give you one example, because the whole reason for committee is to get things corrected, and I'm not trying to go through line by line by line. Apparently everybody blew up the last time that happened anyway. So I'll just give you one example. So it says, after being in private practice of law from 1977 to 1988, Judge Mark Switalski served as 39th District Court Magistrate from 83 to 88. It's not after. Those times were simultaneous to each other. So we changed the word after to while. That's just an example. And also we changed, in just that sentence, we changed in the private practice of law to in private practice. That's it. It's little stuff, but it makes something look nicer, and I don't know why people have a problem with trying to fix something in committee before we go to full board. But y'all want it poorly written. Everybody support Romano on this one. I've gone over it with his brother. I went over it with Mary. It's going to be a lot cleaner, and I'd like a cleaner version framed and in front of him than this version.
And with that, you have the prerogative of voting no on the motion. We have a motion support. Commissioner Romano, did you wish to speak?
I'll withdraw. I'd like to see the vote made.
Thank you. I'll call the vote.
As is. This is as is, correct?
As is. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-4. Commissioners Kleinfeld, Song, Zinner, and Matusek voting no.
Thank you.
I have a question then.
On this agenda item? Go ahead.
So at full board, if we've got the new version printed up, I can offer it as a substitution at full board?
That's correct.
I would really not like to have incorrect information be given to somebody.
It's
Thank
your
you.
prerogative at full board. Next item is 9B, proclamation honoring the Wertz Warriors on their 40th anniversary of the endurance ride to fund the Winter Games at the Special Olympics, Michigan. Who would like to speak to this? Motion to refer to full board.
Motion to refer to full board.
Support Van Sickle.
I have a motion by Commissioner Zinner, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Commissioner Zinner.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sure you read it in the packet, so I won't go over it. They've been doing this for 40 years. That's the main reason for doing this. There's a lot of information about the Wertz Warriors. Just briefly, Vic Wertz had a dream to have a snowmobile ride with a bunch of guys and underwrite the Winter Games for Special Olympics. They've been doing it for 40 years. He died 2 years after it. He had come up with it, and Digger Odell came into it on the second year because he took him out to lunch. Don't go to lunch unless you end up wanting to do something, was how that came about. And it's a wonderful organization, great people. They go 900 miles in 7 days in whatever kind of weather. You all have a paper here telling you about going to Zuccaro's on Gratiot, just below 21, for a fundraiser dinner. This will be from the full board if you vote on it and promote it, and it'll be from the full board. So It'll be presented, if it's voted on, between 6 and 6:30. It's an all-day open for the luncheon, for the food, but if you get there before, if you want to eat, and there'll be prizes at 7 that they'll auction off. It'll be a great time, and it'd be nice for everybody to be there if it's voted for. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I want to thank you. I'm assuming you provided this for us.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Thank you, and I would ask that the motion maker be willing to incorporate one small change. It's changing the word "it" to "they" under "be it further proclaimed" to be consistent to with referring to them as their endurance ride as opposed to its endurance ride. I have gone over this with Mary. She's in agreement with me on that change as well, and I would ask that the motion maker be willing to incorporate that in their motion.
If I could find it, I would do that.
Oh, it's at the very bottom. I'm sorry, it's the further be it proclaimed. It's the very last sentence. It's in testimony of the high esteem in which they are held as opposed to in which it is held.
I think originally it was supposed to be they, and somehow that changed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zinner, are you willing to
I'm sorry.
incorporate?
Thank you. I didn't realize I didn't turn it on. Yes, thank you. It was supposed to be they, and somehow it got changed. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Van Sickle, were you the second?
Yes.
You willing? So we have a motion to approve the proclamation with the changes as indicated. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion passes 11-0.
Thank you. Next is our second of public hearings. These are for any issues that the public wishes to speak on for 3 minutes. Anyone from the public wish to be heard? Again, other than Jamie and Michelle's son who's sleeping. Going once, twice, gone. Next item is item 11, Commissioners' Comments. Seeing Commissioner Matuzak. Gotcha.
Sometimes this thing is slow to put things up. In a previous version of this agenda today, there was going to be a report from the Detroit Zoological Society. It got dropped from the agenda. I sincerely hope that that comes back again. I continue to have many questions about their promises in the last millage election and what's been produced in Macomb County.
Thank you, and I can guarantee you, well, our presenter is under COVID protocol. Called me yesterday. We've already rescheduled him. I think it's the February 3rd meeting, so he will be coming back.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
It'll be Jim Sawyer. He's chairman of the committee.
Thank you.
And I'd like to use that as a precedent. I'm certainly going to do it for this committee. When we have appointments, somebody's going to show up and explain the appointee, what their roles and responsibilities are, so we're all on the same page when it comes to what their role is. So thank you for bringing that up. Commissioner Kleinfeld.
Just because we had so many staff members that were out, and because of what is happening with Omicron and the flu and everything else, I was talking with Kyle about this, and I think I mentioned it to Dawn today. If we have to do a meeting without the staff so that they don't have to worry about exposing people or being, exposed to somebody, we can do that. We might not be able to televise it, but we can conduct the meeting itself and do the roll call and everything. So if they ever feel like they shouldn't be here, we can handle it. I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other speakers, next item is closed session to discuss confidential attorney-client privilege memorandum from independent counsel Pete Weber. Motion to go into closed session. Nobody wants to. Pete.
Matusik moves. to go into closed session.
Support Van Sickle.
I have a motion by Commissioner Matuzak, supported by Commissioner Van Sickle. Please vote. Yep. Okay, Jamie, you're out before she closes the door.